Parry Talks, welcome back. We're back. Episode, who knows what, really? 20-something. Done at least 25 of these by now. We're back with a man very close to my heart, I'd say. Work very closely together. Pretty much everything we do, from the label side, from the media side. Very, very much entangled duo, I think I could say.
It's a very visual way to put it. I like it.
We're visual thinkers at Parry Talks, and I assume my fans are too. We've got the one, the only Jack Limmer, runs our very friendly local label of Leisure, and as well as just a overall veteran of the scene, and he's seen a lot of things. How are you, G?
Mate, I'm very well. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be sitting here opposite you today.
A lot of people aren't as grateful to be at a pub, at this dingy pub, upstairs at a closed bar at 10:30 a.m.
Mate, I feel right at home, and I know that we've been talking about doing this for a while, and I've probably been keeping you at arm's distance for a while, but it's all just kind of treat them mean, keep them keen. So.
Exactly. And I think that there's a reason that the timing's now, because Blue Line Steppers 2 is finally out into the world, and what a pleasure for it to be out in the world, I guess I could say.
Amen.
So just dig right there. Let's just start there. Blue Line Steppers, originally, because it's the second volume of it, was it always meant to be like a series or an overall brand, or did it start off as just a one-off compilation that just got legs, and all of a sudden it's like we could actually make something special with this?
Yeah, it definitely spawned as a kind of one-off compilation idea, and I think the more we kind of thought it out, and the more we kind of ironed out, the purpose of it, where it's going to sit in the overall scheme of things, and like the vision for it, it kind of all just like started building, and then what started off as probably like a 5-6 track just localized compilation, which initially started off as like, we had all this music that we were getting submitted or listening to, or wanting to work with from like a label perspective, and we just didn't have the time to be taking on all these projects just because of the nature of the size of the team. So we thought, rather than like doing all these one-off single releases, let's put all our focus into one kind of like compilation which celebrates all these artists. And then that kind of started snowballing a bit, and we started off being like, oh, should we get involved in this? And we started chatting to a few artists, and I don't think we'd even had the name for it at this point. We were just like, hey, we're doing this comp, do you want to be involved? Hey, we're doing this comp, like, we'd love to work with you on this. And I guess the like artist reaction that came through from that was just instant and positive.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we want to be involved. So that kind of led to it turning into, from like a 6-track, little local compilation to a 12-track, double LP, vinyl, followed by, we should do a celebratory party off the back of this because we've got all these great artists involved. And then instead of, there's that kind of snowballed yet again into, if we're having a party, so-and-so needs to be involved. Like, we need to get Andy Garvey, we need to get Kato, we need to get Festa, we need to get Fishing, we need to get, like... You
name it, really. They were all there.
Like, we can't do this without involving these people. And it's just, it went from kind of like small ideas into something that was probably pretty ambitious considering the size of what we wanted to do. But long story short,
it just snowballed.
And I think as that kind of all ironed out, we were just like, well, it's something that really wanted to continue, and there's a lot of great artists in Sydney and Melbourne and across Australia, and obviously New Zealand as well. So just there's so much scope for it to continue and grow.
Big time. We'll dig more into the ethos of it in a second, but I feel like, having an ethos firstly, and having more than just a compilation is so important when releasing compilations. I feel like compilations so easy to just get lost in the wayside as like branding tools or whatever. So people just skim through the lines, be like, yeah, this is sick, but
For
they don't
sure.
stay as much. Whereas if you've got an event with it, if you've got, you know, prospects of more, if there's something more attached to the compilation than just let's just put a group of songs together and release it as, you know, a branding exercise for a label.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
I feel like it's so important for it, in my opinion. Just listening to comps, I feel like Blue Line is great because it's not like that. There's something else to it.
For sure, yeah. I guess that kind of comes with, like, we wanted to use it as a platform. Whilst, you know, there'll be names on there that people recognize, and kind of, if you know, whenever compilations get released, you'll instantly go to that artist that you're fond of. You'll go straight to their track, whether it's the A side or the B side or whatever, and you'll always just play that one first, and you're like, fuck yeah, and then you'll kind of just like flick through the rest of it. And I guess you know, we wanted to use that opportunity as well to introduce some new names who, you know, might be their first release ever, and just kind of like a bit of like a, you know, a local celebration, and also like a discovery tool as well.
Big time. People
Yeah.
just opening Blue Line Steppers Volume 2, just going, I want good spirit.
yeah.
But then stumbling across, you know, Satisfy and stuff, so good.
Yeah, exactly. It's,
Yeah.
that's,
I feel like,
well done.
and we'll get to this properly, but I feel like the past, I don't know, since, so like spoiler, I work at Overledger as well, and since I first heard that Good Spirit song, it's been every night before I go to bed, I just hear Outright just whispering in my ear.
And what a beautiful way to go to sleep.
Exactly,
eh?
mate. It's the best.
I would. We should even just try and get the acapella of that. I'm sure Al would be happy to send it
I'd
over.
kill for an acapella.
Just give you a
Just
give you a
loop
good night loop.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I was most surprised about, or maybe I'm just stupid, was finding out what like Blue Line actually meant and where the name come from. So like, do you want to talk a bit about where that name came from, and then maybe just the overall ethos of what Blue Line is?
Yeah, it was. I guess the name kind of came later on, once we realized that we were stumbling onto something that was, you know, kind of going to be bigger than the initial idea, and we, you know, the hardest bit was kind of encapsulating that in a name which is like, you know, stands out and also just sums up kind of, you know, what people can expect from it. And it was all kind of spawning around the time of like the lockouts was just in, like, I was so sick of fucking talking about the lockouts.
Yeah.
It was like, no matter where you went, it was like all over the media. It was like, if you went into state, all my friends in Melbourne would be, you know, asking me about it. If I go overseas, randoms would just like, oh, here's Sydney's nightlife. It's completely like just zapped. And it's like, yeah, it was, but at the same time, once you start hearing that for like that was just going on and on. And you kind of, like, what wasn't getting covered really was the fact that there was heaps of cool stuff like already existing, but then they were like, you know, people were forced to get a bit more creative with what they were doing. So I guess I've probably taken this a bit of a sidetrack, but yeah, like we wanted to kind of put some positive news about Sydney back in conversation. It's like, oh yeah, all these clubs shutting down, all these parties,
some good
promoters,
spirits,
so whatever, yeah, and just be like, no, wait a second, there's like all these super close-knit communities who are like doing it tougher, but like it's, when you do it tougher, it's even more rewarding when like something good comes of it. So anyway, yeah, the name that kind of came from, we need something that is, you know, quintessential Sydney, and with that kind of lockouts tie-in as well, without wanting to like use that as a talking point, it was kind of like what spawned just the need for this to happen. And the blue line is actually, and there's two blue lines, it's the light and the dark blue line as well, so it actually worked out pretty well. But that is actually the train line which connects the like inner city and King's Cross, I guess, like the old guard of like Sydney's nightlife, generally speaking. And with, you know, you're in the west suburbs, St. Peter's and Petersham and Sydenham.
Sydenham's on that line as well.
And yeah, and it's just like that kind of, we're like, oh cool, that's you know, there's got to be something there. And it was initially going to be called Blue Line, just like that. And I think it was just mulling over things, just as I always do too much, and just going, there's got to be like, this needs to be like a punching like full stop at the end of this. And I think it came from, I listened to a fair bit of NTS, and I think I'm going to say Pender Street Steppers mix came on, which gets a regular rinse, and I was just like, you know what, the whole Steppers thing, with like in like the literal sense of people getting on the train and all that kind of conversation, and then like the dances and everything, it was just like,
makes sense.
So yeah, shout out Pender Street, love you.
I'm sure they're good friends of the show. I'm sure they're listening.
You should get them on. I'd love to hear a conversation with those guys. So.
It's happening. Let's do it.
There we go.
Do you have a favorite memory from a warehouse party or an open air party from that sort of lockout, or just like a goat party from that sort of lockout era, peak renegade scene stuff?
That's a very good question.
We can come back to it.
Do I have a memory of that? I have a lot of good memories from those parties. Specific ones.
If there's one line out that just stands out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough.
I'll have to come.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it. Yeah, and then obviously it's evolved. Blue Line Steppers 2, there was a big party at Manning, which was like everybody. Like I think like if you there was a checklist of like just quintessential Sydney DJs, like they were there. You couldn't miss anyone. I feel bad having a venue that night because just like there's no one to book because like everyone's already there.
I think there was another party at Herman's or something that night with someone pretty quality international, which I think a few people jumped the fence and came over.
No support.
Yeah, we could have just joined forces. That would have been cool.
Yeah. What can you do?
What can you do?
And then obviously, let's talk a bit more about Volume 2. Fishing Boys did lead the pack, and I think it's probably my favourite track and a lot of people's favourite tracks. It's just insane, and it's been waiting to come out for a long time, and a lot of people just know that song for some reason. What do you love? What do you love the most about working with those boys? What do you think they embody in that sort of Blue Line ethos and how they intertwine with the whole thing?
Oh man, they're like, firstly, why do I like working with those guys? So Doug and Russ are just hands down like just the best dudes you'll ever meet. On just like a personal side, they're just like embodiment of like positivity, and I think the community ethos that is so important in the whole scene. Like these guys are so prolific, and not only that, like top of their trade in all the different aspects of what they're doing. Like they've got so many different musical outlets that like I'm still even just like discovering new ones. Like there's with different projects
keep popping up.
But like from like the 10 Brain stuff, they're doing some really cool like house and techno and jungle as well, kind of ticking that off in their solo projects. And then they're doing all that really cool stuff in like the dance and electronic world. And then on the other side of things, playing bands with like Indian folk kind of styles, and it's just like, and doing that so well, and it's like they're so versatile. And then Doug's teaching, and Russ is just
whipping up lineup artworks
graphics,
and stuff.
The next level. No one's really doing that like it. So and like doing all that, and you kind of like, if you heard that on paper, you'd be like, holy shit, like these guys would be at like, I don't know, just like on cloud 9 or whatever. But it's like they just carry on with their stuff, and just like they just want to keep creating, and it's cool. So I think with that Good Spirits track was one that has kind of been around for a little while now, and I think they wrote that in their old studio with Al in King's Cross, funnily enough. So that kind of all came together as like a nice story. But Al kind of mentioned that that song was written in a different time, but that message is still relevant more than ever. And it's a simple message, but I think everyone's just searching for some good spirits right now, like in everything.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of those guys are the best.
I feel like to comment on them as well. I feel like a lot of people assume Sydney has this big gatekeeper culture, especially in the underground, from certain corners of it or whatever. Some people sometimes might feel like they're not as accepted in, maybe like there might be a chin stroker culture or whatever. But like Doug and Russ are just like the opposite of that, in the sense that like
fully,
they break that down. Like there's no gatekeeping, there's nothing like
it's like just, you're not getting any stroke chins there. You're just getting hugs.
Just hugs.
Oh, that's what it's all about, So
yeah. Yeah, and shout out Russ's visual stuff. The first time I saw one of his like live installations was Logic 1000 last summer.
Yeah.
And I just was like, who did that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Russ did that. I'm like, what? Shouldn't he be like writing music or like doing everything else? And it's like, no.
I mean, that's just another. That's another just kind of like, Bodo's Arsenal or whatever.
Exactly.
It's
crazy.
That's not the right saying. But
Bodo is no. Another
arrow to his bow.
You can't say tool in his shed either.
No.
Oh, tool in his shed works.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't really
no, because it's
give
not
it much credit though, does it? It's like anyone can have a tool in the shed.
Isn't it weapon in the arsenal?
That would be it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
There we go. I'll keep that in the memory.
We started a new saying. No, I'm pretty sure Eddie's the king of probably started 30 new sayings last episode. So,
that's right. Let's get 31. That's good. Yeah.
Obviously, this is a tough question, but because
because
we love all the tracks that we put out on Blue Line too. But if there is any other standouts, any sort of surprises, anything that you heard for the first time was like, holy shit, I didn't know this existed, or is a favorite for you from the other side. If you want to give any shout outs to anyone specifically.
Well, first,
Because you say and I promise I'll say mine after. It's even.
Firstly, shout out to all the artists that got involved in this. That was like we was so stoked with that final track list.
Big time. And we'll give credit to everyone in a second too. Yeah.
It's like asking you. Have you asked your parents? Have you got siblings?
Big brother.
You've asked them.
I'm the favorite child though.
Yeah.
But like it's obvious. Like I don't even need to ask. But then like mom's like, oh no, I love you, brother. So yeah, I get away with everything.
Yeah.
Poor bastard. Anyway.
That doesn't surprise me. I've seen you get away with a fair bit before. I think it's like, look, they all have their own
things going.
Yeah. I think like
how about this? Let's rephrase it. What do you reckon the most underrated song on Blue Line 2 is?
I think one that maybe takes a bit of warming to, which I think is going to like really shine in the right setting in like a live environment. At like a certain point of day, like a certain venue is like Frida's track is technically just nuts. Yeah. It's like, it's slow, it's dubby, it's trippy, but it's like the percussion in there is, so he's got a drumming kind of history, so his percussive elements are always just like crazy. Things that you don't really traditionally think should work. And then there's this like, I think what kind of he shot through a couple of tracks, and for this one, which what kind of felt like quintessential Sydney as well, was this like, there's this noise which I asked him if it was like maybe like a field recording sample or something, and he was like, no, I just made this on my synth, but it sounds exactly like those morning birds that we all know
all too well
and hear too well. And I was just like, oh, that's just like, they're probably everywhere, but it just feels like a Sydney thing, the old morning birds.
Big time.
But yeah, and then there's also, I mean, Sophie Forrest with an absolute belter of a
Yeah.
track. Probably like one of my favorites on there. There's just something about it. It's just like
The percussion's crazy. Yeah.
It's just raw. It's like industrial and just keeps building. And then you've got the there's
Just all of them.
it's they've I think they've all got their own place, and but yeah, there's some good stuff to dive into there. I think there's something in there for everyone from any sort of line of the electronic world to kind of like latch onto or enjoy. So
everyone's got it.
But I want to see these in a live setting. We haven't had a chance to hear any of these.
It's coming.
It's around the corner.
When
you can feel it, but I think that'll be a special moment as well.
Big time. Just some more ways to just talk up everybody on it. When hitting up artists for Blue Line, what are some not prerequisites to say, because that's a bit harsh, but just what are some key factors, key things you're looking for an artist that could be on a Blue Line project?
I think like a lot of it also comes down to because unfortunately a bunch of artists that we couldn't work with at the time, just coming down to like existing schedules and stuff that weren't aligning and whatnot. But I don't know, just people doing different shit and like exciting stuff, and not necessarily stuff that's like going to be on the radio or I guess frequenting those like as you say, kind of like gatekeepers of approval. I mean a lot of the ones, I guess through a lot of conversations we've had as well, and it's like who are you just liking at the moment, who are you listening to, who have we just discovered, and that kind of, once you go down that rabbit hole, it's like you can go pretty deep, but it's also, I know, just hitting up like trusted sources as well, just across the industry, and just being like, oh, is there anyone that you've come across that or are working with or heard of that would be interested in something like this, and kind of send them the whole ethos thing, as you said. And
big time.
It's if they're eager, that's the most that's it. That's the probably the only prerequisite.
Exactly. If they want to give us a song, we'll take it.
If they just send it and it's on.
Send it, sign the contract. It'll be on DSPs in a week.
Exactly.
That's not how it works. Beautiful. And you're obviously not just Mr. Blue Line Steppers. You have a life outside of that, which is
it? Do I?
Probably didn't feel like it the past fortnight.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot of music industry experience, and I feel like a lot of people might be listening. And I feel like especially early on for me as well, I was a bit lost and confused on how to, put the foot in the door and that sort of thing. Just wondering, you have been working music for a little while. What was your introduction to the music scene? What were some early first jobs, or just first engagements with being interested or being involved with the other side of it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my early experience was kind of coming from a, first and foremost music fan, going to gigs, and kind of meeting like-minded people there, and you kind of realize that it's kind of when you first get that realization of oh cool, there's people that like talking about this stuff as well. It's
I'm not the only
sick.
one.
And then and then you get your gig buddies and stuff who you just go to anything and everything with, and I think that kind of naturally led to wanting to learn production as well. And I had a mate who early on, he was a little bit older than me. Actually, I'll give him a shout out.
Give him a shout out.
Give him a shout out. Soddy, mate, this one's for you. He was I guess we just hit everything together, and he kind of he was always into the Gesaffelstein and Brudinski and
One era.
Fly Low and all those just absolute fucking wizards. And he had a studio as well, and just at his home, and I was like, oh, I want to get into production. He was like, epic, come over, I'll just teach, like I'll just show you the ropes. And he was using Logic, and that kind of like got my chops going there, and ended up switching to Ableton just because it was just easier for me. And anyway, started like producing and wanting to like DJ and stuff, getting some gigs, and that kind of like snowballed, I guess, into I was working in hospital or something as well at the time, and then contributing to, I was a writer at Stony Roads for a couple of years.
The chronic.
So I think I need another shout out to Rave Dawson Cots, because you guys are absolute
mate. The feeders,
legends.
The feeders. Everyone that's been through that system, mate. Think about all the alumni of Stony Roads.
I was wondering how long it would take you to say alumni, but it's well and truly. Like,
I reckon if you, it's probably some of the strongest internal alumni.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Like they, you know, they're the fucking best, and like doing such great things, and they deserve, you know, all the success they get. But yeah, I was kind of working with them just on and off for like a couple of years, working in hospo, and then I was kind of wanting to take that a bit further, and just the nature of the blog world, it just wasn't like, there wasn't much more to progress, I guess. And
don't talk to me about it. I know it all too well. Shout out Emma for listening.
Yeah, shout out Emma.
She knows the pain.
Yeah, I know, it's take the hat off, honestly. And yeah, next thing I think I was looking for an internship of some sorts, and ended up getting an internship at Of Leisure and Neon.
There you go.
Yeah, that kind of, I think from that point onwards, I've just kind of like, something clicked in me that I was like, because I never really thought that there was like a career in music. Like it was always just like a huge hobby for me, which that was always in that world. And then it kind of clicked to me. I was like, holy shit, seeing all these older, you know, people in like really great positions and working in music, I was like, that's fucking sick.
Yeah,
that's what I like. That's what I want to do. Yeah. I was like, this is like, this makes so much more sense now. And yeah, did the internship thing for a while, and you know, just through like still playing gigs and stuff and trying to put on some parties. You know, you just start building the network a bit and meeting people, and next thing you're in this world of, you know, people, like it's a big industry, but it's a really small industry as well. It's like, it's not, you're not far away from anyone really. So yeah,
or Tom Hanks.
yeah.
That's we'll keep that on the way.
That's it. But no, it's that's
for the friends and family listening.
What a curveball. And yeah, then going from there, I guess, to just working full time at the label, and I was lucky enough to get a job as well, working publishing in Universal Publishing for a couple of years with a really great team there in the A&R department. Owen and Nora, shout out. And you know, that
the shout outs are rolling in today. We haven't had a big shout out episode since
what's the record shout outs? Because Eddie's got the
Eddie has the least.
I think I've got a lot of people to shout out, because like there's know, a lot of people kind of have played, you know, their own roles in this whole process as well. So
yeah, it's very. I think a lot of people learn it's a very personal business.
Yeah, definitely.
It's less about your resume and your stat sheet.
No, more exactly.
It's like so much about just getting involved, knowing the right things, not knowing the right people in a toxic way. Knowing the right people in terms of getting involved, and
you couldn't have said it better. Like getting involved, like anyone can teach you what you need to know. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're going there, just like bring it on. Like
hit me.
Give me the dirty jobs. Yeah. Whatever. like that.
Sensitive topics. All sensitive topics.
But you gotta get your hands dirty, and it does pay off, because as like the further you go, the more you understand like the smaller cogs in the wheel, which are important for the big ones to work. So yeah, kind of had that experience, was really great in just, you know, working with a really great A&R team, and solely focusing on like, songwriting and understanding that world, which I was just trying to absorb as much as possible. And that kind of then unfolded into was working with a great team of Leisure, and
what a team it is.
Yeah, and that team's kind of evolved a little bit as well, and ended up jumping across full time about 18 months ago, or 24 maybe. I've kind of lost count. I've got my COVID timeline on, so I don't know how long ago
it's crazy how and this is a big sidetrack, but 2015 was 5 years ago. Think about that. 2017 was 3 years ago. That
and I don't like it when you give me these scary timelines of just implying my life's just shot past. Mate. You never miss a subtle dig to say that I'm 15 years older than you.
It's not 15, is it? It's only 10. It's only 10? Nah, 7.
7. Alright, that makes me feel better. That's right.
You're young at heart.
Yeah.
People say I'm old spirited too.
That's right. I think that's right.
We made it 24,
Yeah. Forever 24. Let's shake on that.
You're a bastard. Big time. Yeah, so I think it's super interesting as well, because I reflect on this too, and I don't know if you do. When I first started in music, I had no idea. I had a fake idea, that'd be cool to do one day to pay the bills. But I'd never had any idea of how it'd pay the bills, if that makes sense.
100%.
Media, potentially, label, potentially, management, potentially, who knows. And I feel it changes every second week for me.
I mean, it's almost that's it. You're almost doing a little bit of all three of those lanes. It's
I'm doing literally everything.
Yeah.
Throw some parties too. Why not lose some money there? Yeah. Lose some money on this podcast.
Basically, you just got to find new ways to spend money. You just got to. You're I've got a bit of cash. Let's just blow it.
Just blow it on a renegade party.
And
that gets shut down in 2 songs.
Yeah, it might last an hour, but fuck, it'd be good to get everyone together. And
exactly. Beautiful. Yeah, it's super crazy how it changes though.
I had a bit of a flashback of a bad experience there.
I've heard this story before. Let's bring that up when we get out of the industry side of the
Yeah, for sure. It's cursed me. But back to entering the industry is what you were asking, wasn't it?
I don't really ask anything. Just having a conversation.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I just completely bypassed your question or not. I was
I just feel it changes so much, the trajectory. Well, I find it interesting because yours is somewhat linear. I guess you could argue, sort of. Or did you think that coming in you would be doing something completely different to what you're doing now?
I guess coming into it, I was just I just wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
And get involved with, artists that I I enjoyed listening to and excited about. That was kind of the entry.
Big time.
And just get in and soak it up.
Take what you can get, really. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of you got to learn so much of it just on the go, and you just soak up the experience, and then there's always been there hasn't been a bad day doing that. It's
yeah, exactly.
Working in music is the fucking best.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm super grateful for that. So
yeah, I feel I don't know. I hate when people ask me what do you do? I'm oh.
Yeah, it's a terrifying question.
I hate it.
Yeah.
No, but even for when you work in music, there's an assumption of you're some.
Especially when I was working in publishing, I still don't know how to answer that question because it's people are oh, you, books? No, the other major side of the industry of people writing music, and it's oh, but see, a record label, you're not really.
Sort of. Yeah, it's super. The amount of times I've actually Googled difference between, a record label and publishing company early on, and I still don't really know, but it makes sense.
I did that this morning.
Every morning I wake up.
Yeah, just to see if it gets easier.
Searching for a purpose in life. The answer lies within that.
Yeah.
Obviously, and I feel one of the big things that I've seen as a trend working in a label that I'm not horribly impressed with is not as in impressive like that, but I feel like submissions and like the whole submission culture and like can sometimes is just super ambiguous and super weird. As in, like, I don't like it because of how awkward it is for everyone on either side. Like, it's like, do I just send an unlisted SoundCloud link to their label and like hope for the best, or like on the other end, like the label's like, what do I do with all these songs that are getting submitted and stuff?
Fully, yeah.
So it's just like a horrible process for a lot of people, I think. So, you know, if someone, yeah, it is. If someone was like a young artist, you know, wanted to catch your ears or someone at a label's ears, what would you recommend them doing? What are the sort of things that stand out from the label perspective? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think advice would be to an artist who is looking to get signed. You know yourself, know your sound, and kind of like, you know, have a good understanding of kind of, you know, what your sound is, and, you know, it's important to have a sound, and if you don't have one, that's you're the first step. You got to figure out what that is. Generally speaking, like, it's so important. It's you know, it's hard to kind of progress as a project if every song is completely on different ends of the spectrum, but that is also generally speaking. Yeah, people can also do it. But yeah, I think just doing a bit of research into, you know, maybe shortlist a few labels that you enjoy or that you want to like see your music on, and you know, look at their rosters, and then also ask yourself, like, you know, where could I kind of see myself fitting? And this is all just kind of like, you don't have to psychoanalyze this that much, but I just think, you know, can I see my music sitting with this roster? And it's like, you know, if your sound is exactly like someone that's already on that roster, it's not actually that appealing for the label, because you know, they don't want two artists, you know, directly competing. So it's you know, it's a tricky one in that regard, but I would just say kind of like understand your sound, do your research on some labels that you know are kind of like dreams of yours, and then, you know, make it easy for them to listen. Like, you don't have to send pages and pages of info and stats and everything. Like, from my experience, like I will try and listen to everything that gets sent to me personally, but I generally won't read everything, because it's just like I'm kind of in the middle of like doing other stuff, and I'm like, oh, I've got these like demos to listen to, and if there's an easy link that I can just click on, and it just like takes me to a private SoundCloud link, and it just auto plays, and I listen to it through heaven, then that's kind of like it's all about the music first and foremost. Like, I don't care if you've got 1,000 of the mintest like 35mm press shots that, you know, the
35mm press shots are in right now as well.
You're looking stunning. Like, that's great, but you know, it comes down to the music first and foremost. So make sure the label has the easiest navigation to your music. So one click, here's my music, listen, and then, you know, if you want to include a short little paragraph on your story, that's go for gold there as well. But I think, it's like you said, it's a daunting process, and I think on both sides of the table, like, and you have to be, you know, you're putting yourself out there for someone else to kind of
be pretty blunt.
Yeah, and like, don't take, like, you can't take no's to heart either. You know, hopefully they might, you know, in the response, give a little feedback, or like, you know, keep us in the loop. A lot of times it comes down to like whether, like, even if the label likes the music, like, is their roster full, or like, is their release schedule full, and like, it might just be a timing thing. It's not like because they don't like your music. So it's one of those things. And I think as well, if that doesn't go the way you want it to go, like, you just gotta get fucking creative with it. Like, there's
DistroKid, get it up.
Like,
get it out there.
There's so many ways to get music out there these days, and like, same again with I guess like parties too, when that becomes relevant again. But like, if you're, you know, it's not like we have 1,000 clubs in Sydney to choose from, and like bring up grassroots DJs to learn or to perform, or that kind of stuff. So like, throw your own parties, like, you know, play your music at the parties, and like try and like that's something that you know has proven successful for so many artists across so many genres. And I think it always will. So
big time. I was gonna say, when pitching to the blog world, the opposite. Pretty press pick, clean bio, good looking press release. I'll cover it. I'm not scared. Just if it looks good, I'm taking the piss. But yeah, music's good.
Yeah, if there's a good photo, no one cares about the music or the bio. Just a good photo. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I find something pretty interesting as well, because I don't want to leave anyone out, especially while we're talking about Of Leisure. This might go for hours. I think one of my favorite things about the Of Leisure lineup, it's so diverse. Like, you had Jack Grace with a ribbon, like, a fortnight ago, or 3 weeks ago. And, you know, from then Blue Line, then Human Movement, then MUTO with, like, indie, like, just production brilliance, really. I think that's so exciting, and, like, it probably is a great thing to work as well, because you're working different songs in different regions and different, you know, that sit in different areas. So it probably is an enjoyable thing to, you know, work with those different artists.
Yeah, totally. And it kind of for me as well, it's like that's where I'm also constantly learning as well, you know, from whilst, you know, they can sit in the different lanes in sound. It's like when, I guess, in like an A&R process of, you know, say with Jack Grace, who's in this
big shout out to Jack Grace.
Jack Grace,
what a man.
He's the man. And he just has this like melting pot of the ultimate melting pot of influences, and like from these like Japanese post rock bands that he's toured with to you know, like early like Brit rock stuff to like modern classical to future electronic, everything, and like house and techno, and he just brings that all into his music, and like Bruce Springsteen even, and like all the great writers like Dylan and like War on Drugs and stuff. He just like he pulls all that in, and like we kind of have conversations like this, just, you know, going through like all these and for me it's like it's a great kind of learning experience as well, because, you know, that's a lot of my musical education is coming from from how these artists kind of, you know, have influence and applied to artists in our roster, and it's like you know, dig deeper into like the history of you know, how it all connects, and like the connection from like, you know, every genre connects back to another genre, and like think of like punk to like acid techno to like there's a
we could draw the net.
There's a line there, then like from blues to, you know, like modern like indie stuff, like it's all connected. So I think it's cool. There's it's cool to be constantly learning from the artists you work with, because, you know, they've not always, you know, the most like I guess, what's the right word,
like direct, I don't know what you're trying, like direct influences, or
just get like that, like they don't always like talking about themselves, you know,
big time.
It's like they let the music do the talking, so it's kind of cool to like, you know, and that comes with building up a, you know, rapport and trust and respect between each other to like have these conversations. You can't just go up and be like, who's your influence and like why, and
just shirt front,
and
poor Jack Grace,
like,
give me the codes.
You know, when you kind of get those moments of just talking candidly about like, you know, I was just sitting on a bus and I'm obsessed with like so and so, and it's like, it's cool to just like see that side of artists of, you know, who do a lot of the talking through their releases, and then you kind of like, you got to see the other side of that, of like, how did they get from there to, you know, getting this output. So
big time.
It's cool. Always keep learning.
Big time.
Never stop learning.
And look, we've given Eddie, Human Movement, a lot of shit this episode, unfortunately. He's a good man,
just returning the favour.
True, well, you copped it last episode. So like, I don't know, I felt
victimised.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting because you manage him as well, as alongside taking care of the records. What are the benefits of that sort of, management plus label relationship, and, what's it like working with Eddie? Being his mate, but also being, quite involved with the project here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of, that unraveled in a pretty natural way of, we were kind of, the working relationship was over, a couple of years from like a label to artist kind of thing. And, like you said, we're good mates as well, and just had a good working relationship. And I guess that kind of A&R to artist relationship is one that does, you do get a lot closer just from like time spent in the studio to, like just having a break and getting some greasy Thai across the road. And
he loves that $8.50 Thai as well.
He does, doesn't he? He's getting his tofu, and I'm getting my suspect looking noodles. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of just like, it was a bit of a natural progression. And he kind of went through a bit of a bumpy few months with the project of just changing the setup. And it was kind of at a time as well where he was working on a whole bunch of new music, or like resetting on his kind of sound and getting some music in the bag. And I was just kind of like you just need to focus on music. And we've got a good working relationship here, just like just you kept worrying about that, and I'll kind of help you out in the meantime.
We'll do everything else.
Yeah, which was it was just paperwork up to here, so I was just slaving away. No, it wasn't. But he's like I think in locally it's not rare for people to be wearing different hats in the industry, and across agencies and across publicists and across labels and publishers and everything. It's not out of the ordinary for them to also have some other projects that are kind of like running alongside it all. So I think it's what it does. What is important is that I have an artist first mentality, because it's like, at the end of the day, I've got to be acting in this and the whole roster's best interest. And that's what I like, a big priority for me to like carry across into that work is, whilst everyone has differing opinions at certain points of time, that's life, that's natural, that's good, that's what helps things progress. But to have the room to be able to say, like, look, this is a thought, and artists, at the end of the day, it's artist call, and then they're the ones with talent. But I think with Eddie, it was just like a good natural kind of like connection there. And the guy's just super talented, and it was just exciting with him. I was just like I kind of came into that as like a fan first, it's just like
dancing around.
I fucking love this music, man. Like, I think you have you got
baby, could you
smash. And just as it came in as a fan first and foremost, and I was just like, have you got more of this? Like, this, there's something, there's a sound here. Like, there's something that's quintessential human movement, and that's and the guy is an absolute wizard in the studio. Like, you see him he just gets this like look in his eyes sometimes when he's like, we'll just be chatting and like throwing ideas around and listening to demos, and then he'll kind of just like go into this like wax statue face expression. I just know, like, in like 15 minutes he'll like have just like this sick little idea, and so I just like walk around the studio and just like pretend like play around with some drum machines or stuff or whatever. But I just know, like, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt the man while he's it's like,
while it's working.
Don't interrupt an animal while they're eating dinner. It's just
big time.
And he'll just go, and it,
What a monster!
So
just a monster.
It's he's inspiring, and he puts in the effort. Like he loves it.
He lives for it.
He absolutely lives for it. So you know, you can't really ask for much more than that. It's like
shit, 52 minutes.
Fuck.
Couple more rounding of questions.
Should we do that episode 2?
Oh,
or
you're always invited back. Just want to say, what do you think? What are some of your highlight moments, memories, parties, with your time at Pop Leisure?
Ooh, that's a good one. Some highlights. Fuck, so really stretching the mind. We had a lot of fun times, I guess, at the cafe lounge parties.
Oh.
Shout out Louis, and rest in peace Cafe Lounge. We're really gonna miss you guys. But that was kind of like our home away from home, and doing those monthly parties there was always just, you know, that place is just designed for a good time. It's like it's like a dive bar on ground level, pretty much, you know, and good, like decent system with
good tinnies as well. They're always cheap tinnies.
Yeah,
it's a must.
That's the secret, isn't it? And just so hospitable. Like Louis was just like encouraging people to fucking have a good time. Like he just, anything goes. People dancing on the furniture, and he's just like right there with them. It's like that's what you want on the bar. You can't ask for much more than that. But that'll be sorely missed. It's kind of like I think they're going to be resurfacing in some other capacity. So excited to see what they do there and see if we can kick things off again. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, I guess we did open with a lot of Blue Line, but that party was super rewarding, first and foremost, because we're not an events company.
Yeah.
Like we're a record label, and I think we came into it probably a bit naive, and you know, it was an ambitious,
big hard ticket event.
big venue, big big scale production, and you know, a big, like huge team from the from the artist to the the staging designers and the sound engineers and everything, and you know, thank goodness we pulled it off. I do distinctly remember just kind of like going around the party and like chatting to artists after their sets, and just it was like just important to see how they thought it went, and just getting so much good feedback from their end. Like I wasn't really that, I don't know, from the punters side I didn't get as much
because we were
interaction.
We were having a great time.
But I was asking, and just getting, you know, them coming off stage just being like with a big smile on their face, like fuck, that was fun, and like that like to have, that was really rewarding, especially after having like, you know, some nightmare events on like not of leisure related, but just from like having a punt, as you know, as you do, and then some things don't go to plan, but that got pulled off, and that was just rewarding. It was like so much lead in, so much planning, and you know, seeing Katui play back to back for the first time was unbelievable.
Beautiful. Couple questions to wrap up. What is your favorite boiler room of all time, or favorite mix, anything in that world? Just something you flick on, just being like, oh, this is chronic.
Oh,
because I know you're an avid fan. Probably listen to more stuff than anyone I've ever met before.
Yeah, that's a really difficult one.
I'd say this spins everyone. Everyone, usually all the interviews go great until this point, and everyone's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure, like it's always like, it's funny because like I don't really have like a routine with like what mixes I go to. It's like I'll just like have a list of mixes I need to, like I've got a list of still
tick
like
off.
So many to go through. It's like a COVID mix list, and it's but I guess like most recently, what do I listen to? I'll tell you what, I love listening to Charlie on NTS, the Brecky show. This guy is like first with like the music's right up my alley, and it's like he plays everything from like ambient to, you know, kind of like dubby and like all world music, and it's just like the guy's got such good taste, but he's got good chat. Something about like, I don't know.
It's like me.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you with an English accent is how I pitch it. I was actually speaking of, I guess that's just like shots to the front of the mind. What was it? DJ Plead's Deck Mantle mix.
Don't even start me.
That one's got a few run throughs. He's
insane. He's the best.
Yeah. That's
King of the bongo.
Amazes me. Yeah, seriously. Like, get him and Freda on a track. I reckon that'd be
chaos.
Just percussive chaos. Trying to think like all times, man. Jeez, that's.
Anyway, you've said it. That's it. The play one.
Yeah. Dangerous vault to open.
All right. Couple quick fire questions. Got to answer off the top of your head. Okay. House. No, I'm gonna sit you up. All right, just be ready. House or techno?
House.
Easy. Skylab or FBI? No, I'm not making.
I'm
not making you answer that.
No, I have to go. Look. FBI, Sydney represent.
Good, thank you. Correct answer. Sorry, Skylab.
I'd love to jump on the show someday.
And a final question, not a dickhead question. Just someone that you think deserves their story told. You can nominate someone who should come on Parry Talks. Who's good? What do you reckon? Who's underrated? Who needs their story heard?
Who needs their story heard? I knew at some stage in this interview my mind would just completely go zoom when I'd like know that I have something that I'd love to like put forward, and this is that moment. I'm just gonna segue off your FBI chat and say you should get Amelia
big time
down. You know, she's doing some amazing things across like all aspects of the industry. She's got I think she'd provide some really good insight there.
That could be a triple episode.
Hey,
like, it could be a triple, like FBI, Body Promise, Nectar, separate episodes.
When it comes to how important her role has been, like, and it continues to be. There we go.
You didn't even realize.
You've subliminally like planted in my mind.
Yeah, just been chipping away to look at it.
But I guess even off our chat about the fishing guys, like. Yeah. Doug and Russ, get them involved. They deserve a mic, you know.
Big time.
Get them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, mate. I hope that
was beautiful.
Hope that went alright. Yeah.
I've been trying to put the pressure on them to come on. This does it. Perfect. Just cracked the hour mark. Parry Talks.
Have we still got people's attention? Or?
Listen, yeah, we would. You know what? Episode 2 coming. Strange Associates episode.
Oh, there we go.
Full hour dedicated to the Associates, the legacy brand, the legacy culture, everything about it. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. This will be out in a fortnight from now, so still pretty relevant. Keep an eye out. Go stream Blue Line Steppers Volume 2. Go stream Jack Grace, Human Movement, MUTO. Made in Paris. 2 of her songs, that's it. Don't worry about the rest of them.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Young Franco.
The Young Don.
Shit, we didn't even give him any love.
Shout out, Joey.
We love Joey. You got that.
There's too many people to shout out. I hope we covered a few of them.
Shout out
Paz.
Body Promise.
Thank you for providing this platform.
No worries, anytime.
It's
always free to come back. Whew.
How good.